So, what's going on with regards to accessibility in Koha? With the introduction of various accessibility-focused laws around the world, it's becoming a higher priority for products like Koha to focus on it. The Koha community is well aware of these increased requirements, and as of the 2105 release cycle, we now have an official accessibility advocate role in the release team. Their responsibilities include attending the community meetings to promote accessibility-related topics, encouraging further enhancements to our coding guidelines and quality assurance practices, and highlighting areas where Koha is insufficient by reporting bugs and suggesting solutions, as well as encouraging collaboration when attempting to implement those solutions. Henry Bolshaw from the UK Parliament House of Lords Library has taken on the role as the first advocate. So what's already been done? Well, we've already added a new section to the coding guidelines, the laws that govern what code will be accepted into the codebase, with two new rules. The first accessibility rule highlights the requirement for all new pages introduced into the system to include one main content class to allow for the new skip to main content navigation options to work. Our second new rule concerns numeric inputs and requires developers now use text input types with numeric input modes and an HTML5 pattern match attribute. This allows for mobile browsers and accessibility software to properly identify such inputs and display the correct numeric input options. I'm sure there are many more guidelines to come, and work's already underway to bring the codebase up to date with these new rules. On to the product itself. Accessibility is moving fast and we're striving to catch up. The public interface isn't in bad shape, but the staff client needs a little work. In the 2005 and 2011 release cycles, we saw a real drive to improve accessibility of the OPAC, in part because of the focused sponsorship by the UK Parliament libraries. Let's take a look at some of the recently added accessibility enhancements. I'm going to be using a screen reader for some of the demonstration to highlight how a visually impaired user may interact with the site.
PTFS Europe Catalogue. Enter dialog.
So we've navigated to the site and the screen reader has announced our title. A visually impaired user will likely use a keyboard to navigate through the site rather than a mouse. So we'll start by tapping Tab, as that's the first thing they'll do.
Exited dialog. Navigation. Skip to main content. Button.
So this highlights one of our new features nicely, the Skip to Main Content button. This allows a user to quickly jump from the top navigation all the way to the main content of the page. Let's hit return and see where it takes us.
Tab list with 4 items. Bertrand's top 10. Tab expanded, selected 1 of 4.
Brilliant, it's taken us straight to the main content of the page. How many clicks might that have been had we not skipped through?
Exited dialog. List with 1. Type search. Main line. Go. List. Course. Tag. Purchase. Library. Home. List with project. Flips. Open. List. Koha. Tab list with 4 items. Bertrand's top 10. Tab expanded, selected 1 of 4.
I count that as 23 tabs saved by having the skip to main content. So now we can see how important hidden features like this are to the visually impaired. You can also access this feature without a screen reader. You just need to hit the tab button. Let's turn the screen reader off for now.
Chromevox is now inactive.
So, behind the scenes, a lot was going on there. We've made sure we've labelled each of the elements on the page with a good description so that our screen reader can read and understand it and highlight what's going on to the user. We've also worked through the OPAC to ensure that header level elements work incrementally, i.e. they don't jump from a second level header to a fifth level header. This is important, again, for assisted navigation, where these headers are used to calculate where the next keyboard focus event should land. Let's take a look at what we've got on this page. So we've got a top level header, which is the site title, and then we've got a header for each of the menu sections on the left and a header for the main content block. Please remember, a lot of the content areas in Koha can be set by the library via the staff preferences. If you wish to remain accessible, you'll need to take this into account when editing these content areas. Another area that has undergone some work is the ability for Koha to work well at high zoom levels. The OPAC has now been tested with up to 200% zoom, and many corrections have been made to prevent elements of the page overlapping with each other. So the main page looks reasonable here. Let's do a search. No overlapping issues in this page either. And finally, the OPAC details page. We no longer have an overlapping table. This used to overlap with the right hand menus. Finally, a number of small improvements to colour contrast ratios on our buttons and contract areas have been made to ensure that we've got a good contrast. Again, this is something to bear in mind when you're doing your own CSS styling. Andrew's done a great review of the tools you can use to check that your CSS is working correctly and that you've got good colour contrasts. Thanks for listening.